This is a menu for a Japanese restaurant in Little Tokyo called Kawafuku. The menu isn't dated, but experts say it's likely from the late 1960s or early 70s. Here's what's interesting about this menu. Kawafuku holds claim to having the first sushi bar in LA, and one of the first in the US. You know, the kind with the counter and case displaying a selection of fresh, raw fish gleaming behind glass. I wanted to write a story about how this sushi bar came to be. I thought it'd be fun to see if I could find the location where Kawafuku once stood. As it turns out, the story of Kawafuku Sushi Bar fits into a larger narrative about the evolution of sushi in Los Angeles to become one of the most pervasive international foods in the country. There may not be a better neighborhood than Little Tokyo to experience the many forms of sushi available today. We can go to a small local sushi bar, a hand roll spot, a conveyor belt sushi bar, a grocery store, an omakase restaurant, and even a place that offers vegan sushi rolls. But I'll need some help. This is Gil Asakawa. Gil has written books on the Japanese-American experience and Japanese cuisine in the US, as well as countless articles on these topics. Let's meet up with Gil and go for a walk. Literally on a walk just like this, years ago now at this point, I think it must have been like 2014 or 2015, where I just had this memory of a story that my dad had told us about the first time that he tried sushi. I remember even as a kid thinking, it's so strange that sushi would be such a unique experience because it's not a unique experience any longer.
No, it was a peek, at the time it was a peek into a completely foreign and exotic culture. When I was a kid in grade school, I had white kids come up to me and go, you eat raw fish? Ew, that's gross. You eat sushi stuff. And yeah, I'm old, but I'm not that old. And so it wasn't that long ago. And to think that those same kids that were teasing me probably have kids today that can go to the supermarket and buy mediocre sushi.
That's actually sort of why we're here. I mean, one of the ideas is that in Little Tokyo, we can see how sushi as a cuisine in America has evolved from just one restaurant, Kawafuku, having a sushi bar in 1965 or so, to proliferating and morphing and maybe, you know, taking in some of American food culture and adapting it.
Food is the gateway to culture, and Japanese culture has really been helped by food being its entree in the US.
I'm actually hungry now. All right, what are we working with here?
Tofu skin with sushi rice in it. California roll, maguro, which is tuna, and this is salmon. You want to get like a combination, and then
like a combo nigiri, and we should get a couple rolls. I have to assume that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that sushi is a pretty convenient food that you could adapt for a supermarket.
Sushi has a long history in Japan as kind of like a fermented fish, where they actually would throw out the rice after it fermented with the fish for over a year. But then during the Edo era, the samurai era of Japan, it was sold from carts in front of castles by vendors for people just walking by.
Right, and then the earliest form that you mentioned, the rice was there to absorb moisture, right?
Yeah.
So that the fish you're trying to preserve doesn't rot, basically.
Right.
And then, lo and behold, people realized that actually makes for a nice combo.
In Japan, you can buy sushi, very good sushi, from convenience stores, which are called konbini. If I went to a 7-Eleven in Denver and asked for their sushi, they go, what? But when you go to a place like Little Tokyo, you can find pretty good sushi in a supermarket because they're Japanese supermarkets.
Right. I mean, this is good. You know, it's fresh. It's pretty to look at, and it's tasty. Sushi, in a way, buying it from a supermarket like this really is almost full circle from street food in Japan centuries ago, right?
It really is. It's about the convenience. It's about being able to eat it easily with your hands and pop it in your mouth one bite.
The convenience of sushi can't be understated. Sushi restaurants where plates of nigiri, hand rolls, and more travel on conveyor belts have been popular in Japan since the 70s. That's thanks in part to a chain called Kura, which operates more than 500 conveyor belt sushi bars in Japan, and nearly 40 in the US. Thankfully, one of them is in Little Tokyo, where Kura's CEO, Hajime Uba, who also goes by Jimmy, sat down with us for an inexpensive lunch. Conveyor belt sushi, not everybody is familiar with it. And I want to try to understand, I think it's good for our listeners, our readers to get a sense of why conveyor belt? Is it because of choice? Obviously there's a lot of choice coming down the line, right? Or is it about speed? Americans love fast food, right? And they're used to things being fast. I mean, I know this is not new to America, the company's very big in Japan, but what's the idea behind it?
Sure. Our guests can start eating sushi from the revolving conveyor belt as soon as they are seated. So our guests can control the pace of their meal without having to wait for servers to bring out their food.
Sure.
That's the key.
Yeah. What do they call us? This is fast food nation, right?
Yes.
People are familiar with drive-thrus. People are familiar with I need food right now. I go into McDonald's or In-N-Out, Taco Bell, and I get it. Yes. Obviously, Japan has quick food culture. Like you go to a ramen bar, you need a very quick lunch, you can get it, or you come to conveyor belt sushi, and you get a quick meal. Right. Do you think that the success of the conveyor belt style in America is because Americans have this fast food culture?
Yes, but this is definitely one of the reasons. But the people come to our restaurant at first for the fine dining experience. But yes.
Not because we're all trained on stuffing our faces with Burger King. Not because of that. I said it. You didn't say it. Sushi, of course, hasn't succeeded in the US just because it's convenient or affordable. Far from it. One of the ways it has become so popular is by playing to local tastes. When Americans think of sushi, one thing often comes to mind: the California roll. And even though we were looking for the site of Kawafuku, we also had to check out the place where the ultimate American sushi roll was invented. Or at least that's how one story goes.
So this is 339 East, 329 East, 335.
I bet you it's that building. 337. I'm just trying to figure out exactly which building it is. Because we want to know exactly which building it is, right? Tokyo Kaikan was one of the early restaurants to serve sushi, and it was a well-known restaurant in Little Tokyo. It came after Kawafuku. Some people told me it was the second place to serve sushi.
That's what I've read as well.
It's probably best known if you read a book about the history of sushi in America for a claim on inventing the California roll. And I say claim because there's at least one competing claim.
Yes.
Tell me what you know about the Tokyo Kaikan claim for the invention of the California roll.
In 1966 or 67, after Tokyo Kaikan opened, that they had a sushi chef who responded to these complaints about sushi being scary by creating a roll that had, instead of raw fish, he used avocado. The story is that otoro, or fatty tuna from the tuna belly, was out of season, but that avocado had the same mouthfeel.
It's funny, you have these myths about food that are never gonna ever really be settled. Look, I think there's like nothing more Californian than an avocado. And when you think about it, like also imitation crab is kind of perfectly LA too.
Yeah.
So. Omakase translates to, I leave it up to you. In the sushi world, it's the highest order of fine dining, where chefs prepare many courses, often 10 or more, for only a handful of diners at a time. And they pay big money for the privilege of eating whatever the chefs want to serve. Kanayoshi is one of those restaurants. All right, so I have to tell you, in trying to track the evolution of sushi in America, we had an idea for all the sorts of restaurants that we would come to. So I wanted to do omakase. Would have been fun for you and I to just sit down to $1,000 dinner. So Kanayoshi is a renowned omakase style sushi restaurant, you know, extremely limited seating. And I called them to explain what we were doing. And the person who answered the phone cut me off and said, "I'm busy right now. I can't talk to you about this," and was about to hang up. And I said, wait. Can I just email you the information? No reply. And then I sent him a second follow-up, and I was just fully ghosted. So I sort of get it. If you're charging people $400 a head for a 3-hour, omakase experience, you don't need the LA Times barging in. So there you have it. That's the place that we're not going to.
Well, thank you for showing me.
Moving closer to our final destination, we had another stop on our tour tracing the evolution of sushi, Rice and Nori, which specializes in hand rolls. Owners Regina Chen and Mika Nakata Schenefeld explain why this form of sushi makes for the perfect quick bite. Why hand rolls? Why? What's the idea behind it?
I've done sushi for a while. I've done sushi in French, but something we could start on our own because we're not a big company. So we're like, okay, I could do hand rolls. That's something I could do. It's casual, easy. And right now, onigiri, everybody's like interested in onigiri. It's becoming popular. So okay, let's just put a couple of that.
So people are familiar with it, but this is a restaurant that's meant to be, you can get in and out quickly, right?
Yes,
I mean, tell us about the philosophy behind it.
Very casual. Like first we're like, okay, deli style. So we have the display case. So we're like, okay, order the sides. You could do the sides, pickle, hand rolls, or onigiri, and get out of here.
I'm sure if we weren't here and you had a line of people out front, you guys could be
Cranking them out.
like turbocharged, knocking these out.
Yeah, we do it just really fast.
At Rice and Nori, the hand rolls don't have that standard cone-shaped look. Instead, their burrito-like form prevents them from being too seaweed heavy and chewy. Regina and Mika are making common fare like spicy tuna rolls, but they're also having fun with rolls featuring uni cheese, baked snow crab, and smoked scallop.
What is the mix of customers do you have? Do you have like Japanese people coming in
We
here?
have a lot of Japanese American, and we have everything, variety.
Okay.
Chinese, Korean, but what's really interesting, we get a lot of Japanese tourists that they come and they're like, oh, we have onigiri, and miso soup, and they love it, yeah.
It feels like home.
It feels like home,
Yeah.
comfort food.
While Rice and Nori may feel like home to a Japanese tourist visiting LA, for many Angelinos, the only way sushi could feel like home is if it's vegan. Thankfully, Shojin exists just for that purpose. Why does this restaurant exist? Who does it serve? So just tell me the philosophy behind it.
Okay, for us, the customers' health and happiness is the most important thing. We use Shojin Ryori techniques, also Japanese traditional cooking techniques, but we kind of modernized and we create this kind of cuisine for not only like people who have strict diet, but it's enjoyable, it's beautiful, and everyone can enjoy.
Some of Shojin's offerings are wholly original creations. Other dishes seem like vegan odes to items that you might find at any number of trendy sushi spots. Take Shojin's baked crab cake hand roll. It includes mushroom, avocado, and oat cream with smoky sweet tamari wrapped in soy paper. And it could probably fool more than a few people who enjoy Sugarfish's blue crab hand roll, an item popularized in LA by chef Kazunori Nozawa many years ago. I'm actually curious about Japan, and if this style of sushi is popular in Japan, if this is something that is available if you're in Tokyo, vegan sushi. Do you know?
I think it's more easy to open this kind of restaurant in Los Angeles because there are a lot of more vegan people, I think, like here in New York or maybe, Los Angeles or like New York. But in Tokyo, I think the vegan population is still really, really low. So maybe it's not attracting to most of the people.
Do you ever have customers, people visiting from Japan, and they're surprised to see vegan sushi?
Yeah, sometimes we have people from overseas and also Japanese people visiting from Japan, but they never seen this kind of food.
And what's their reaction?
Oh, they get excited and of course they like them.
In an era of rapidly declining fish populations, and the increasing acceptance of alternative protein sources, it's not hard to imagine a future in which most sushi looks a lot like what Shojin offers. Not to get too dark, but climate change is coming for your crab roll. For now, though, the mood was buoyant. We were radiating in the tranquility that only a multi-course vegan meal steeped in the tradition of Shojin Ryori can generate. And we were headed to the place that put LA's sushi scene on the map.
So, Weller is just this street right here.
Yeah.
And I have to assume that it wasn't always a plaza that was closed off like
It was
this.
probably a street
Right.
at some point.
And it's kind of hard to picture it in the days of Kawafuku because there wasn't this enormous hotel
Yeah.
tower and, adjacent building. It would have been somewhere right around here. Kawafuku was a big building,
Yeah.
multi-story building.
I've seen pictures of it.
The Weller address and the First Street address were basically different addresses for the same building.
Interesting.
109.5 Weller.
109.5.
The entrance
to-
moved to face First Street.
Okay. What a perfect metaphor for modern life. The old building is gone and Starbucks is here.
Exactly. So that's right here. There's Los Angeles, First Street. As you said, now there's a Starbucks and Justice Urban Tavern, whatever that is,
Oh, yeah.
in its place.
Wow.
Kawafuku is central to the story I'm telling. Remember, this is the restaurant where LA's first sushi bar opened. It was around 1965. Now, to be clear, we're not saying sushi hadn't been served in the Southland prior to then. After all, Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans ate sushi and sashimi at home, and even a handful of restaurants over the years had offered items such as Nori sushi, which is a fried tofu pocket stuffed with rice. But prior to 1966, there weren't sushi bars, the type making nigiri, in LA. That's according to Noritoshi Kanai, one of the businessmen I'm writing about, along with Harry Wolf. And Kanai's innovation was building the food supply chain to support sushi spread across LA. And the effort began with convincing the owner of Kawafuku to open a sushi bar inside his restaurant.
Kawafuku had for decades been sort of the spot. It could accommodate hundreds of people. Some say, 500 or more for a wedding. You could have banquets there, you could have big events. When Kawafuku was willing to take a chance on sushi, it really kind of guaranteed sushi's success in Los Angeles.
My guess is that at the time, most of the customers were people who had been in Japan, who were stationed in Japan, or Japanese workers, salarymen who were sent to the U.S. In the mid-60s, a ton of Japanese companies started to come to the U.S. and Los Angeles was an ideal place to have headquarters. So my guess is that a lot of the customers here were Japanese or Japanese adjacent or familiar with the culture. It's too bad that there isn't any piece of it left. Maybe there could be some effort to put some sort of historical marker here. I think there's a lot of ethnic history that's worth preserving and educating people today about, considering how commonplace and mainstream sushi is today. There was an origin where it wasn't, and it was weird, and it was new, and it was exotic, and it was a risk, and this is the restaurant that tried it.
While Kawafuku doesn't exist today, we can be thankful to find its DNA in every neighborhood sushi bar across LA, and even perhaps beyond. By now, we'd almost had our fill. Still, we had to stop by one of these inconspicuous yet indispensable spots, Sushi Go 55. When did you buy this restaurant?
2018,
2018, so 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
But you began working here many years ago.
Many years ago.
When did you begin working here?
This restaurant or
This restaurant?
This restaurant, totally 9 years already.
9 years. So that was 2013? 2013.
Yeah.
And as a sushi chef?
Yes,
Behind the counter.
behind the counter. The Sushi Go 55 is mean the 55 is mean that the Yankee, the baseball player, Matsui, his name is 55. So that one is me the go, Sushi Go 55, yeah, like
It's
that.
right behind you. There's a
Yeah,
picture of him.
behind him.
Are you a baseball fan?
I'm not really, but I'm the baseball fan.
He is.
Oh,
Dodger fan?
I'm a Dodger.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, Matsui. I'm not really that interested in Hideki Matsui, I'll be honest. And when did you come here?
When?
Yeah,
1988.
Dodgers won the World Series.
Yeah.
It's a good year. And what was your impression of Americans and sushi when you first came? Were you surprised by how interested people were in it? Or were
Yeah.
you horrified because they only wanted spicy tuna roll?
No, that was the first time they start to learn eat the sushi. They had to try to order for the California roll, spicy tuna roll, and then a few years later, they changed. Give me a tuna, give me a salmon. Yeah, this is it. After finishing, they changed a lot of fish.
And in Japan, as part of your training, did they teach you how to make California roll? Because they said the
No.
Americans are going to want this.
In Japan, no.
No. So you had to learn that here.
Learn it here.
So you do all these years of training, and then you come to Los Angeles, and you need more training on California roll,
Yeah, right.
on spicy tuna roll.
Yeah, right. Yeah, American people, they like the raw. They not really like the raw fish. But now that they change, the raw is, the young people. The aged people is no more eat the normal and the raw. Almost everything sushi.
Right. Los Angeles is a sushi city. Outside of any municipality in Japan, it is arguably the sushi city. LA is home to countless restaurants that treat raw fish with a kind of reverence, the sort that's usually reserved for religious rites. It's also known for places with a Mad Hatter flair for incorporating sushi into decidedly American concoctions. We saw some of that, and more, on our tour of Little Tokyo. Traversing the neighborhood, it's easy to trace the evolution of this influential cuisine. And in doing so, you can wind up at some pretty out there places. But in the end, it was a simple meal at Sushi Go 55's worn counter, where we did as much talking as eating, that felt more LA than any other experience the area could offer. And it was easy to see the through line from the restaurant back to Kawafuku.